I do know that Data is one of the biggest Eminem fans I know.
I don't know about the biggest. I like hip hop in general, and hip hop doesn't exist in its current form without Eminem.
Which I agree.
His influence has been huge. Whether or not you think he's the best artist, I don't think he's the best artist,
No.
but his influence is undeniable.
Yeah. I remember growing up, I'll tell people it's like Eminem, if I was to sit down and actually think about the artists that I listen to, would he fall in my top 10? And I honestly said no. Growing up, some people would be like, well, that's crazy, that's insane. I'm like, well, the question is artist that I listen to. I listen to him, but does his music resonate to me to the point where I'm like, you're definitely in my top 10? And I was like, no. Like, I don't need to have Eminem on the road trip.
That's fair.
That's one way. That's one of my criteria. Is like if you're in my top 10, you're at least one of your songs or two of your songs are at least being played on the road trip easily. But this video that we're about to watch is from Hip Hop DX, a channel on YouTube. I'm gonna tag them and everything. We're not gonna watch the whole thing because it's 14 minutes. I just wanted it to have y'all listen to kind of like the opening segment of their video. I love their takes. I love the way that they explain their hip hop videos too as well. So let's sit back.
They do break it down real well.
So I'm saying, was this have you heard of Hip Hop DX in the past?
I've seen a couple of their stuff before. I haven't watched a ton of it though.
Okay, because like I won't say I've grown up with them, but like they're one of my main hip hop channels that I watch. I do like how they break things down. So we're gonna watch maybe like a minute of it, and then we're gonna go from there. You know, so again, this is it's a time for us to be honest about Eminem. Let's go.
There's something to be said about knowing when to hang it up. Take the career of a prize fighter, for example. Once they've given all they can to the sport, hanging on any longer can have truly destructive consequences, because soon they become the sacrificial lamb that other young bulls will use to make a name from. And we've seen it time and time again. Across MMA, boxing, and virtually every combat sport you can imagine, there's countless examples of once great fighters who couldn't walk away, clinging to the hope of one more round, and ultimately becoming prisoners to their own love of the game. Take this into the context of hip-hop. Does any all-time great immediately spring to mind? Well, stepping into the booth might not have the same kind of hazards as heading into the ring or cage, but it can be damaging to a reputation, particularly one that was built against the odds. When he first emerged into the game, Eminem was an outlier in every sense. The white kid infatuated with a predominantly black art form, and was denied time and time again before he finally got a shot courtesy of Dr. Dre. The rest is history, with M refusing to let go and becoming the most popular hip-hop artist of all time. And despite emerging in the era of SoundScan and CDs, his longevity is so pronounced that he's also the 7th most streamed artist of all time, with nearly 50 billion plays to his name, despite streaming services not existing during his peak. On a personal front, he's pretty much overcome all of his demons. As a loving parent to his kids Haley, Elena, and Stevie, M managed to break the cycle of broken homes that he spoke of, while discussing his own turbulent childhood with his since deceased mother Debbie and absent father. And while he and Kim are no longer together, they're cordial, and far past the point where he was constructing twisted odes to her demise on records and getting sued in the process. In fact, the pair recently became grandparents, with Haley welcoming her first kid into the world after getting married a year prior. Beyond these milestones, he's also overcome addiction. And these days, the man that once took between 75 and 80 Valium a night has now been sober for over a decade. Basically, Marshall Mathers has made it in every sense of the word. And yet, when you look at his relationship with hip-hop these days, it seems like he's not satisfied, even when by all rights, he should really be riding off into the sunset. In the past, the man who just retired his Slim Shady persona on his most recent album had said that he didn't even envision rapping after 50. But the most telling quote of all is here when M suggested that he can't surpass what he's done in the past. Then what motivation is there to keep going? I'm always going to love hip-hop.
Okay, so we'll leave it there. So, if y'all want to watch the rest of that, go to Hip Hop DX. It's time for us to be honest about Eminem. All right? Now, I'm going to let you have the floor first, Data.
So I agree with a lot of the points that he makes in this, where he mentions that Eminem's kind of gone on longer than he really should have in a lot of senses. I disagree on a couple points too, because he mentions that longevity for longevity's sake almost like diminishes careers, compares it a lot to like sporting careers, wrestling careers, stuff like that. When it comes to art forms, I disagree on that end. I think there's always room for both the newer artist and the older artist to coexist, especially in the age of like streaming platforms, stuff like that. We're paying flat rates each month. There's no reason that an older artist and a younger artist can't coexist in the same space. You're no longer competing for the same, $15 so that you can get your record sold instead of your competitor, right? But I also agree with the fact that he has kind of strained himself in a lot of ways to be relevant in spaces that he really shouldn't have to be relevant in anymore. Like he's not like big name mainstream hip hop the way that he used to be. Because I'm sure you remember when we were growing up, like early 2000s, he was
Everywhere.
the biggest name in hip hop that there was, until pretty much like his recovery album, and then he just kind of like stepped to the sidelines for a while. To me, it's fine that like he doesn't have to be the biggest name in hip hop. He can be on the sidelines and still be relevant. Because while I agree that he's an amazing artist, but I don't think he's necessarily like the biggest and the best artist. Because like I can think of almost every aspect of hip hop that someone does it better than he does.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to flows, there's rappers that have better flows than him. When it comes to speed, there's rappers that have better speed than him. Punchlines, there's rappers that have better punchlines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But none of them can match his influence. I would wager to say there is not a single artist, like big name artist today, that was not influenced in one way or another by Eminem.
Okay.
Like, whether that was a massive influence or whether it was just like among the artists they listened to, I would wager to say there's probably not a single artist that was not influenced by him in some way.
I can see that. Okay.
That's kind of where I sit on it.
Okay. And we kind of see things the same in a lot of it. So, like, when they did mention about the whole sports situation, I do see sports as an art form in a certain way. So it's like with sports, definitely physical sports, I see the art form of people being able to push their bodies to elite levels that no one else can. The problem is there's a lifespan upon that. That's why we have people like a LeBron James who is about to do his 23rd year in the NBA, and he'll be like he'll be 40, like 41, and he's playing with 20-year-olds and still competing on a high level. That is how I kind of see Eminem. And what really concerned me with this video, when I look at art forms of music, painting, things of that, I'm trying to say, I don't want to say like less physical art forms, because rapping is a very physical, demanding art form. Breath control, all that
Not in the
stuff,
same
etc.
way as being like a football player or something like that.
Okay, so I can say like less physical, then nobody will like take me out. So but the art form of music, I do not like it when rappers, musicians, rock bands, I hate when they say we retire. Because
Yeah.
I personally don't believe that you retire from art. You take a break. You may not want to do it anymore, so you find something else to do. But you never retire from it, because that's a skill that you have mastered. So to say that you're just gone from it, I feel is very extreme. And most of the time, they always come back after a while. I feel like with Eminem, that's the problem that he's having right now, is that he loves the art form of hip hop. He loves the culture. He loves what he does. But the problem is our generation grew up with a troubled Eminem. So we expect this type of Eminem. The newer generation is like, well, he's an old guy that talked about, beating his mom and drugs and going crazy. He aight, but he ain't us. But then, people like Machine Gun Kelly goes, well, I'm going to attack him and strike and just give my opinions on him. Eminem's like, I'm still Eminem. Y'all may not think because I'm not the young guy anymore in the art form, I can still produce the art. It may not be what you want, but I can still do this. So the culture, I guess the best way to explain it too, LL Cool J said it best. Because LL Cool J just came out with an album towards the end of last year, if I'm not mistaken. And they asked him, they said, like, how do you maneuver in this world space? And he's like, well, I took a break. I went to movies, to TV shows, but it's art. I can always come back. I can still rap. I can still write rhymes. I can still do this. Look at Andre 3000. Andre 3000 has said many times that, like, yeah, he feels like where he was with hip hop when he was growing up, he's not at that same feeling of it anymore because his life is completely different. Yeah. Now, if that meant him making a flute album, that's fine. He took his art, went somewhere else with it, and he's doing that. I think that is what the younger generation wants to see happen to the older hip hop core. They think like, okay, you're old now, go pivot somewhere else and do something else. But then when you have someone like Eminem who's like, no, I'm okay. I'm not, like you said, I'm not battling for records anymore. I've proven my dominance in this realm. I'm not 50 Cent. I don't want to pivot into business. I don't want to create a lot of businesses and become a mogul. I don't want to do that. I want to still be Marshall Mathers. I want to be a grandfather, but I'm also a rapper. And I think personally, when it comes to the respect of the hip hop culture, that's where we're missing this target. And Eminem's one of the few that I think does uplift a lot of the younger artists, because he has apologized on many occasions for certain things that he said, or if he felt like he went the wrong way with someone. And I respect that out of him. He's like, no, I should not talk down to the newer generation of rappers. Because this is the next level. These are the people coming to the table. And if you don't remember, Eminem wasn't even accepted at the table of hip hop. He had to sit on the couch.
I mean, there's still quite a few people that don't accept him at the table of hip hop today, stubbornly. You have to give your props to Eminem for the part that, like, I know a lot of people gave him garbage when he apologized to, like, Tyler the Creator and, like, quite a few other artists for stuff that he had said. And they were like, why? Oh, why's my camera acting up? There it goes. But a lot of people were like, oh, well, he's just getting soft and, like, trying to be like, the new woke Eminem. And it's like, it shows maturity and growth for him to be able to recognize, hey, I did something that was bad. And I can recognize it was bad. And I can do what I can to try and fix and repair it.
Right.
Like, that is growth that we should want from people and that we should expect from people, especially the bigger name artists. Unlike a lot of people who would get praised for something like that, Eminem has always kind of gotten the opposite, because they're like, oh no, you're Slim Shady, you're not supposed to care, you're all this other stuff. And it's like, but why can't he grow
Right. I mean,
as a person, as an artist? Like, why can't he grow?
I think as you say that, look at what happened with Linkin Park. You
Yeah,
know, just how the fan base just kind of almost derailed them because they wanted to mature their sound. Life changes, people have newer experiences, and that's one thing with music in general, on all forms, all genres of music. Your life experiences bleed into your work. I feel some of the best pieces of music is when an artist can be vulnerable. And I think that's one reason why Eminem lasted so long and was so successful, because yes, it was very extreme, very explicit, but it was very vulnerable at the same time. He held nothing back on the pen. That is what I think for him was very, very big. And some people may say, the whole thing, oh, the white rapper syndrome thing. Let's not forget, there was a Vanilla Ice whose career, of course, he had his moments and his push, but when it comes to the culture, he's really only known for two things. Two. Well, no, two. Ice Ice Baby, and that being plagiarism, and then
yep,
the ninja rap.
yep,
That's it. But if you sit down and you talk to someone, I think almost anyone from young to old can tell you a lot about Eminem, and because he has stood the test of time. Not
yep.
everything can be a banger. Not everything can be a pure certified hit. But we can look at his discography and go, we know exactly where mentally you were in each album that you've given us, good or bad. One thing about this video, when they started talking about him, like, is it time for him to hang it up? No. An artist should
No.
never just hang it up. Take a break, be a granddad, enjoy your grandkid, and then come back with some more experiences. Maybe some things that you now have learned because you're now a grandfather. You're not just a father anymore. You're not in 8 Mile anymore in fear of losing everything. Not to be negative, but I think someone that did that very poorly was Logic. And I enjoy
Yeah,
old Logic. When Logic got to that pinnacle of his career, I think he didn't understand. I think he didn't realize how big he got, and that he can't go back to rapping the way he was. Your experiences, you're now at the top of the charts. You're not Bobby from the garage in the basement. You're not that guy anymore. So then when
yeah,
his last album, when he was talking about being a dad, being married, being successful, but people looked at him and was like, this is kind of weird. It ain't bad, but it's not what we come to you for. And how you said about like the maturity of things. Sometimes you're going to outgrow your favorite artist, or vice versa. Your favorite artist will
yep.
outgrow you. And one thing with the streaming platform, which I feel gets misused heavily, is that sometimes a lot of people don't take that time to hit that search button and see, shout out Terry Lane. Like, we wouldn't have figured out his music if we just kept to our own bubble. What was it? The paradox that you showed us. Streaming has its negatives. Like, I'm not getting into that. But the positive thing that I've seen with streaming services of music is that the gatekeeping has been broken. There is no excuse anymore to why you can't hear something or why you can't find something. And to see someone like Eminem, to bring it back to him, are we saying that he should hang it up because his work is truly bad, or is it just you're tired of seeing him? Is it because, to be honest, yeah, I could critique his work and be like, yeah, this ain't his best work. Like, you know, like you said, this ain't no recovery. This ain't no curtain call. You know, like, this ain't no encore. I get it. Like, we can all do that. But to see where he is in life right now, and the fact of he can still spit at a level that is still impressive. He can still feature. He can clap back on people still. I feel like it's one of those things where I don't want us to tarnish what we have with him, because one day he's not going to do it anymore. You know, and Lord forbid the day that he goes on, he passes away, we won't have new things from him anymore.
Yeah.
And look at Tupac, look at Biggie. We can't get anything new from them. We lost them at such a young age. Who knows where they would have been now in their careers? If I had to critique it, we don't give Lil Wayne the same situation. And Lil Wayne's technically doing the same thing that Eminem's doing. He has surpassed the longevity. Lil Wayne is still producing music, still producing albums and hits, and still touring and performing at a high level and killing it. We may not like everything he's doing, but he's still out there. So it's like, are we going to give that same issue to him as we do Eminem? Something to think about. Because
honestly, like, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you're good.
I didn't realize you weren't finished.
Oh, I was done.
I was just gonna say, like, it's okay to be at a different place in life than you were when you got into an artist and when you resonated, like, with that artist. Like, it's okay to be in a place in life where you're like, I don't really, attach myself emotionally to the music the same way I used to.
Mm-hmm.
People grow, artists grow, and it's okay to grow in different directions. But that doesn't mean that there's not an audience out there for artists that you've grown differently than.
Right.
Like, there's still a spot for them. They can grow, have their life experiences. There's an audience that will resonate with the new life experiences that they're having. And there's an audience that will go somewhere else to a different artist. And that's fine. The point in Eminem's career that I've always resonated with the most is the songs he wrote between Encore and not Recovery, but Encore and Relapse.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, 4-year hiatus that he had. Because those are just, like, the most, like, raw emotional songs in his entire, like, discography. Things like When I'm Gone, Beautiful, stuff like that. I love songs from artists that have just, like, those raw, like, moments. Like, talking about Lil Wayne a little bit again, from the Carter 5. Let It All Work Out. Like, just that raw moment where, like, it might not necessarily be the moment people are expecting him to share on a song, but just that raw moment of just laying everything out on the table. Those are the moments I resonate with artists the most on. Because that's when you really get to feel in, each album that they put out, like, this is where they are in life. That this is the emotions they're feeling. These are the things that they're working through.
Facts. And I didn't realize we were at the hour mark already. Jeez.
Oh yeah, we've been going for a minute.
We've been flying. But I guess to wrap up this topic, to wrap up this section, I totally agree with Data. And again, this is nothing bad. Like, we're not sitting there going like, oh, everybody's wrong. Boom, boom, boom. Like, no. But kind of like how I said, I personally just feel like an artist does not retire. Now, of course, if they say they retire, they retire. It is what it is. But I personally feel like when it comes to art forms like that, they don't retire. They just take a break, or they just need something to re-spark that magic in them. And the best thing about music, we have a discography of these people. So it's like if they leave for a while and they come back, take some time to really see if this new stuff is really bad or if it's just coming from a different perspective. You know, and I think that's something that we don't do in the culture. And it could be the small attention span. It could be. It could be the new social media wave of things. The new TikTok music wave of things. It could be. I could be tripping, but you know, some people can't even get past a 3-minute song without, if that hook don't hit them quickly. You know, if that formula that has been created with streaming music doesn't exist, a lot of them will just skip it.
Yeah.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the streaming formula for music in the streaming culture, and it's interesting how each song is purposely broke down the way it is so that they can catch you long enough so they can get their streaming count. It's really interesting. We're not going to talk about it right now because we gotta go. but
We'll be here all night if we start talking about that.
yeah, we will be here all night.